Hello and welcome to the Scotland Rugby News podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg Shaped, and the editor, the man at the top, the one and the only Gavin Harper. Good evening, sir. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Bruce. How are you and how was your weekend?
My weekend was mixed. Let's just put it that way. We kicked off on Friday evening at the Hive, and it was kind of uphill from there. Things got better. A little impromptu visit to Glasgow yesterday because my daughter's flight home missed the connection to Edinburgh, so I had to go and pick her up for Glasgow. So yeah, it was mixed, but I'm still trying to make sense of what happened on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a really bad result for Edinburgh.
It's in so many ways because.
Yeah.
They've had these downs this season and they've bounced back, and there was that big statement kind of December into January of consistency, and yes, there's a lack of consistency because it's Six Nations and the team is disrupted, but it's been in the calendar for a long time. You knew it was coming, and I think that team on paper that we keep winning games on was good enough to win, and it, to the untrained eye, people, reading social media, Zebra wanted it more. Zebra were clear on what they were doing. There's a whole load of stuff in there that nobody's doubting effort at all, but Zebra celebrated everything, every turnover, every penalty, every kick advance, the desire that they've shown, and they've got confidence off the back of their Ulster win. And they came hunting, basically. They came hunting.
From hunters to hunted, or hunted to hunters. That's the one. Now, look, I think these are the results that keep tripping Edinburgh up. And they've tripped Edinburgh up for so many years that squad on paper thing now is just roundly dismissed by people from other countries or other, pundits. And like, you almost do discredit Edinburgh's quality because they are so inconsistent. If Edinburgh are consistent at one thing, it's being inconsistent. It's just, that result is...
And I agree, but at home, there has been a level of consistency.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like
the win in Van was, look, we can win away.
Yeah.
The only home defeat this season was Leinster, and you can kind of forgive losing to Leinster.
I think particularly the first game of the season, that you do get away with that. You can almost put that in the books before it's happened almost. But
it's a bit like, we all think Ireland have got a chip on their shoulder about Scotland. Like, Scotland can talk up the golden generation. Scotland can talk up, but we're coming to win. We are a golden generation because, we've got players that are British Lions. We've got players that are, have won Grand Slams and won Six Nations. I know we've got URC championship, but, for international, it's been done. But Friday night, Parma, I don't know many of their players, and that's part of my local bias again that, I talk about often. Some of them, I don't know where they're going to be, and a lot of people are chatting about London Irish and Ealing Trailfinders becoming URC. So, are Zebra even going to be around in the URC in the next 12 months, 18 months?
Well, I think that's part of it. Certainly there's a backdrop to the uncertainty around Zebra that's clearly fueled and it's sort of surging, an upturn in performances over the last couple of weeks. And, they beat Ulster. That's clearly given them huge confidence. They've beaten Edinburgh, which will no doubt give them further confidence. But let's make no mistake that, like, Edinburgh can't lose those games at home. And I think, you can see it on our social media, on other social media platforms, on the club social media. It's becoming very, very difficult for Sean Everett because fans don't accept those results away from home. Far less do they accept them at home to the side who's second bottom of the league, hadn't won away from home in 4 years. All that stuff starts to mount up, and I think it becomes a very, very difficult position.
I know. Here comes Bruce's bias again. I was absolutely gutted that Matt Curry picked up an injury, and it was in the most ridiculous little circumstance. Player comes round the corner, Matt got in the wrong position. I actually thought he was in line for a card because he sort of flipped the boy over his head. But Matt came off worse, and he got up and he was punch drunk. He was stumbling all over the place, and I'm absolutely gutted for him because he just cannot, speaking of consistency, cannot get a consistent spell in the team to show what he can do. His little brother, who's an absolute monster, worked his tail off at number 8, but really tough shift for him in a game like that where Zebre just went all out. As a youngster making your home starting debut, you're looking for a wee bit more than he got, but I thought he knocked his pan in. When Ben Velikot came on, there was a spark, and he took off up the middle of the pitch, and everybody kind of lifted in the way you do when BV gets hold of it. But we didn't convert that chance, and you felt like maybe it slipped away. And you're willing them to do well. Ross Thompson found it really difficult. The backs just struggled to get engaged. Boff doesn't last long, so people are questioning, how fit was he? It just. It's that over-analysing. When you lose, you get over-analysed. When you win, you sort of dust yourself down and you move on to next week. So, you can read far too much into this stuff, but that's the position we're in just now. And the other bit, we spoke about this, the 6-day turnaround from 1872 to 1872, that was great. 6 days, get it done. To then win for that 2-week break, great, we go off on a break. They're now off, and they've got a stew on a Zebre performance, and I hope none of them are looking at social media, because some of it's grim. I was scrolling through some of it on the Edinburgh page and on other pages, and some of it's pretty tough to read. And I was with a couple of boys after the game on Friday night, and they've taken it really hard, and they are desperate for the Munster game to come around, desperate to try and right or wrong, basically.
But there's another task. Edinburgh now got Munster to put right a bad performance at home. We don't know. It's unlikely Munster will have many back from Ireland duty, but they might get one or two. Gavin Coombs, people like that might come back. Craig Casey's not really. He's just back from injury. So it all just starts to mount up. It becomes a worrying pattern. I think the most concerning part is that Edinburgh couldn't take advantage when Zebre had 14 on the at the end. When they had 14 and 13, they still didn't they weren't able to find a chink in Zebre's defence, or there was nothing. Edinburgh didn't look like scoring a winning try there. And
there was almost a feeling of inevitability. I thought we're going to win this, and I spoke to Maggie Bradbury before the game, and he was saying, Zebre will be in it, they'll be passionate, they'll be physical, but I think we want to try and run their legs off, and we'll pull away. So I kept kind of waiting for but the game hadn't gone that way. It hadn't been run their legs off. It hadn't been. So Zebre were able to stay in the fight the whole time. Penalties.
Totally.
And I took exception, and I never do this, but I replied to somebody on social media to say, wind your neck in, because they were having a go about Andrew Brace. It wasn't Andrew Brace. Please didn't start pulling those punches. And you just thought, right, we're going to score and kick the conversion and win by 2 points. We're going to get there. And when we got turned over 5 meters for the line with 3 minutes to go, I thought, I think we might have blown this.
And I think that's the tough part, that it's probably unfair of me. At the end, I didn't think Edinburgh were going to score, but they had chances before that, and they didn't take them. And I think that's a big, that is the big problem, that Edinburgh are not clinical enough. They don't always capitalise. Their attacks stodgy at best. They rely too heavily on individuals. When those individuals either aren't there or aren't at their absolute best, it's pretty grim, to be honest. And then I think the more worrying part, obviously, the Buffelli one, I didn't ever think he would play 80 minutes. And I think, but the minute you take him off 5 minutes into the second half, you're kind of rejigging the whole backline, because I think Ben Healy went to 15 and, Wes Coulson onto the wing, and it all of a sudden just doesn't feel right. Then Matt Curry had obviously gone off, so it's all just square pegs and round holes. But it happens too often. And look, we talk about the comparison, but the comparison is an easy one in that regard with Franco, who's got guys, forwards who can play second row or anywhere in the back row, nines who can play on the wing, 10s who can play in the centre, centres who play on the wing, like centres who can play fullback. There's a lot more flexibility and it feels a lot more natural. Whereas the minute Edinburgh start to make those changes, you think, this looks like it's got away from them already.
James Lang's trying. I feel like Langer he feels like he's got the bit between his teeth. When he came on, you could see a desire, and he's probably one of the smaller centres that Edinburgh have got. But I always feel like he gives everything he's got physically. He's not going to make huge carries. He's not going, but he seldom makes a mistake in defence. And when he carries, there's a determination in there. I don't know contract situations or any of that stuff. And I'm not saying he only does it because his contract's coming, but I feel like Langer's making a big play to, give me a shot here.
I think Edinburgh are a better team with James Lang at 12. And that's not a slight on Mosese. That is, James Lang has loads and loads of top-level experience with Quins. At this time, he looks like the better foil for whoever's going to play 10. Interesting that the two games, Edinburgh's attack seemed to click okay, and they scored some tries. I know they were in the Challenge Cup, and I hear people saying, there's a couple of comments about beating Van and what, Van's league predicament, and I hear that. But Edinburgh's better attacking performances have come with Ben Healy at 10, James Lang at 12. So then for a game at home that you need to win, and all the talk this time last week, we'd spoken to Paul Hill and Ross Thompson, and they were saying, look, we need 5 points. So I don't really understand why you build a connection in those two Challenge Cup games and then decide for a URC game we're going to go away from that and go back to the team that's played in the league. I get the idea of rotation, but when the guys you've rotated out have played better than the guys you're rotating back in, that I can't. I'm not. That doesn't make sense to me. That's where I get a bit lost, particularly when you're having to make loads of other changes because there's guys not available, Scotland duty and whatnot. I always looked at those Challenge Cup selections and thought, right, that makes sense because these guys are going to be available. You'll stick with them, and that you can almost build a bit of continuity because it seemed like an admission from Sean that Mosese's made good progress, but let's not forget he didn't play that much for the Waratahs, so let's take him out a bit, introduce him off the bench. He can be that kind of impact player. Matt Scott seems to be completely out the reckoning. Mark Bennett's back fit and isn't.
Yeah, he played for Selkirk on Saturday. Yeah, he got sick. Was supposed to get 60 minutes. Matty Scott, I think, was 24th man on Friday night.
Yeah, obviously played for Curry the week before, but there's two experienced guys who might do you a job when you're kind of down to bare bones. But look, I don't know. It seems an odd selection process. I'm not sure what the thinking was, but I think the bottom line, before we go on to talk about other stuff, is that that's a grim result to lose to Zebre at home. not many more of them. I don't think will be tolerated, particularly if David Nucifora is as ruthless as we are led to believe from our colleagues in Ireland and in Australia.
Yeah, I never want to see that. I want them to turn it around, and I hope that. I mean, it must have been tough turning up for training today. I don't know what that is, but we've all kind of been there. It's just that we're not there in front of the nation. We're there in front of our club and teammates and the committee bed. We've not had that situation. Glasgow, on the other hand, half time it looks a bit twitchy, and then boom, second half. See you later.
Yeah, first half there was some good bits in the first half. It just kind of didn't all come together. I think Franco talked after the game about they fixed one or two things. They maybe were a wee bit more direct. They sorted out the scrum, which I was concerned to see had been a sort of area of weakness in the first half. He hauled Jamie Batty and Finn Richardson off at half time, and to be completely fair, I thought Nathan Macbeth added good impact, and so did Patrick Schickerling. Yeah, so Franco got those ones right. George Horn had to go off early in the second half. The latest there is that he has got an injury to his face, which is why
it looks swollen up.
Yeah, so he's not with the Scotland squad in Spain. As far as I'm led to believe, there's a scan. He was being scanned in Glasgow tonight, so hopefully we'll have more definitive picture on George Horn's fitness. If not tonight, probably in the morning.
Which would suggest Dobie on the bench for Scotland.
I think so, yeah. And again, I think England went 6-2 last week because they've got Marcus Smith who can. So that might be an option. We'll get into the Scotland stuff in a minute, but that might become an option because Dobie can play wing. But I have a suspicion Gregor might revert back, having been burned somewhat by the 6-2 when he lost two backs in one fell swoop against Ireland. But we'll wait and see.
Can't do that again. Jack Mann sticking his hand up.
Brilliant. Yeah, he makes meters.
I've never met the guy. I know nothing about him, and I'm so chuffed. I love his story. I hope it gives inspiration and motivation to a heap of people that. I mean, by all accounts, he should be sitting next to me. He should be done. To keep going, keep training, keep that motivation and that desire to get back, I think is absolutely incredible. I'd love a blether with him because I just think it's so good. And now he's not going to get in the Scotland team with Fagerson and Dempsey kind of in front of him, but it's only a matter of time if he keeps putting in performances the way he is that you got to have a look at him.
You've got to have a look at him at some point. And whether that's Six Nations, like Franco said after the game, that Jack Mann's a man on a mission, win his first cap in the Six Nations. And do you know what? Good on him. And if he does it, he would deserve it. Not just for the story. I mean, the story is an incredible story, 2 years out and all that kind of stuff. But he's actually playing really well. Mm-hmm. He carries well. He constantly gets over the gain line. He's pretty quick for a reasonably big guy. He's just fitted in almost back to that point I made earlier about when Glasgow make loads of changes and you bring guys in, like Jack Mann hadn't played for 2 years before he played in November. Wouldn't have known because he just fits into that system and looks totally comfortable.
But the bit with Jack Mann, I suppose the flip of my point is he's determined. He's now on a mission. He's probably more grateful than he's ever been for what he's got right now. I'm not saying he ever took it for granted or any of those things, but to have something you dearly want taken away from you and then get to have it back. I mean, he must be enjoying training. He must be enjoying the pain. He must be enjoying being with the boys because the road to recovery can be pretty lonely.
Yeah, totally. And I think that goes both ways. I think he's clearly benefited from a lot of faith from Glasgow. Now they're kind of reaping the rewards with his performances. He's obviously widely reported to be going to Gloucester at the end of the season, so I'm sure he's also enjoying the extra zeros on the end of his paycheck. So, no,
yeah,
look,
I might do that. And I'm the other one I'm chuffed for is Duncan Munn. I think him now getting to play a wee bit more and being seen, and it's great. Obviously, Ollie Smith being back, Josh Mackay being involved, old man Weir. I think is he not old enough to be Kerr Johnson's father after making his debut at the weekend? I mean, Duncan, he must be close to knighthood, Duncan Weir, for his services to the game.
Yeah,
he's been playing for about 385 years.
I did wonder what relation you were going to suggest there. I wonder if you were going to go grandfather.
Nah, not quite.
But I mean, he's the perfect guy to kind of pull the strings in that team, because he doesn't often do the sort of flash stuff, although he did make a wee 20-yard scuttle up the touchline at Rodney Parade, which was interesting. I think he even admitted after the game he was desperate to find some support. But no, look, he's exactly the guy you would want, isn't he, with 5 million club appearances and all those Scotland caps and stuff to help somebody like Duncan Munn. And actually, when you look, Weir, Munn, Smith is a I don't want to be disparaging any of them, but it's a pretty makeshift Glasgow midfield from Jordan to Tuipulotu Jones. But they just make it. They make it work. They play to their strengths, and Josh Mackay.
But they're not. But they're not trying to be Jordan Tuipulotu Jones. They're able to be. And I don't know if that's game plan. I don't know enough about what's going on and the ins and outs of things. And you said they were a bit more direct. Keep it simple, stupid. Like it just feels like when they come in, they're crystal clear on their roles and responsibilities. They're trusted to execute it. Okay, it's tight at halftime, making changes to personnel tactically, and then bang, we scalp them second half. Having that confidence and belief, it just feels like it's a given now at Glasgow.
Yeah, that's it. Like, they just, no matter what the situation is, you always feel like Glasgow are going to, one way or another, get themselves out of it. It was a wee bit sticky looking maybe for a spell in the first half, but beyond that, like, I never ever thought Glasgow were going to lose. And there's a comment here: Dragons are our bogey team. I think if they were, that has definitely been put to bed in more recent times, because, as is the case with much of Welsh rugby, they have a lot of questions, a lot of problems to fix, a lot of questions to answer, and are in desperate need of a man to do it. Whether that's Franco or not, we'll wait and see. But he certainly left the door open for a phone to a phone call from the WRU when we spoke to him after the game.
But he's no daft. Like I don't know. I've met him, but I know nothing about him. I don't. It's anything I know is either second or third hand or what I've read. So I don't know, but what I do know is he's no daft, and if he can say things to you guys that help somebody at Murrayfield make the phone call, or somebody in Cardiff make a phone call, why wouldn't you? I mean, he is in as strong a position as probably any coach, not Scottish coach, but you get what I mean. He's probably in the most, and he's also at his height. Like if something happens to Glasgow now and they slide, his value goes down. I don't think anybody can disagree with me. At the moment, his stock is at its absolute highest. And it's a professional game. He's not Scottish. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other people looking at him going, right, how do we get hold of this guy? Whether it's a club team or a national team, and it's going to cost, because part of one of the rumours I heard was that some of the teams have been turned off because of how much it would pay to get him out of whatever his contract is at Scottish Rugby. But I know nothing about that stuff. So that was just some guy that was walking the dug and I bumped into. I think probably told me that. But
yeah, so I
mean, Welsh Union, they are desperate.
Yeah, they are desperate, and they have said, I think partly they've been helped by the fact that Warren Gatland didn't take the payout that he would have been due. But they have said, look, money will not be an object to appointing the new head coach of Wales.
I wish Hibs had done that with the last half dozen managers they've sacked, and we wouldn't be 7.2 million in debt.
There might also not have been 7 managers if they had appointed the right one in the first place. Look, I think the Franco thing we could talk about all night because it throws up loads of debate about what happens next at Murrayfield, what constitutes a successful Six Nations for Scotland.
That's another day. Didn't you start? We've already got a list of about 25 pods that we've said we'll do at some point.
I know.
So let's get to Murrayfield then. Finn and Darcy.
Yes.
I mouthed off about this last week, so I'm not going to go again. But for them to be retained in the squad worries me.
Well, I assure you, from the words of Pete Horn earlier when we spoke to him from their training camp in Spain, basically you needn't be worried. They've been through all the checks and seem to be, as Pete put it, progressing well through the return to play.
Are these the same checks that said he was safe to go back on and then wasn't put back on? Are these the checks we're talking about?
I think these are more thorough checks than the immediate in the tunnel, in the changing rooms kind of.
Which are supposed to be...
Totally. I hear you about HIAs and stuff. I totally get that. But the news, the sort of top line from the news out the Scotland camp is basically neither Finn nor Darcy is at this stage out of the England game. Incredible when you think Darcy left the pitch on a stretcher.
Are they? I wonder, and we're not going to know. But are they playing the media game? Are they? Is this for Steve Borthwick to be listening to? Because that baffles me. And I'm no doctor, but come on.
I think what I would say about this is Scottish Rugby there have clearly been mistakes made in the past.
They can't take a risk. I hear you.
There is no way you can take any risk. So if they're not right, basically what Pete said today, if they're not right, they'll not play.
Good.
He's saying that they've been through all the protocols, they've done a bit of training, they've been on the pitch with the team doing skill stuff, and they seem to be okay. But as it stands, they're assessing it day by day. They won't be able to do any contact until Thursday at the earliest. Excuse me. And Scotland actually fly to London from Spain on Thursday, so they'll not train. Look, basically Scotland are going to rely on these two guys, like 125 caps experience if they play. But you're right. I think particularly around Darcy, who left the pitch on a stretcher and a neck brace and all this stuff. I mean, a lot of that is precautionary. But I actually said to a colleague earlier, if Kyle Steyn was fit, would we be having the same conversation, or would Darcy have been ruled out last week? Finn, I can see them giving Finn every chance to play because he's so important to the team. But I think what that does mean is they'll make a change at 12 because you can't at the 11th hour be moving Tom Jordan from 12 to 10 and putting Stafford in at 12 or Cam Redpath, who's back in the squad, in at 12. Like, I think they need some certainty, and it's either Finn or Tom Jordan start at 10. The other one maybe on the bench if it's Jordan. If it's Finn, I think he's not involved. That's to Malcolm's point there. Would it be exciting to have Finn and Darcy on the bench?
If they're fit to be on the bench, they're fit to play.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. If they're fit, they play. If they're not, they're in the stand with everybody else.
Yeah, okay. I'm chuffed Cam Red passed back in. He's another one that I feel like in another time maybe we'd have had 40, 50 caps by now. There was a period of time where is he English, is he Scottish? He was Scottish. We thought, yes, we've got him at last. And then it feels like not necessarily he's under-delivered. The opportunity is just not there. You can't predict Sione Tuipulotu coming across and becoming one of the best players on the planet. So I find that tough. Matt Curry's obviously out, getting that stinker an injury at the weekend, which I'm gutted for. Alexander's been sent back to France.
Yeah, I think I feel a wee bit sorry for Alex Masibaka because he's come in, he's had a couple of weeks in training camp.
I wouldn't be feeling sorry for him. He's not had to pay for his own flight. I wouldn't be getting that upset.
You're right. But I think I'm not sure what the message is there, because does it feel a wee bit desperate that we've sent for a guy from D2 when we've got, like you mentioned Tom Curry earlier? Would he have benefited more from being in that environment for a couple of weeks?
But Tom's been in and trained. This will be their one and only chance, because otherwise the club's not going to release him. If you didn't call him up, you're not going to have a look at him. So I'm going to give them that one. It never sits well with me, and let's not get started on that, because that's a whole series of podcasts. That's not just one. But it was probably their way to have a look. Now, I have no idea. I can't tell you in the book. I was Googling him, same as everybody else.
He's a big guy. He walked past us in the corridor at the training base at Oriam, and he's a big old unit.
He'll have enjoyed the breakfasts across there. Ross McCann, Ali Price getting called in as well. You got to be loving that this time of year. Do you want to come to Spain, boys, for a few days training?
Yeah, I think Ross probably more so than Ali, who might be pressed into action depending on what Gregor sees fit at 9. Look, that wouldn't surprise me if Ali Price, having not been involved in the first 2 games, all of a sudden, particularly around, and this is what I mean, to go back to Malcolm's point earlier about Darcy and the whole rejigging of the team. Like, you couldn't, in theory, plan for Darcy to play, and on Thursday's not right. So your next option is Dobie on the wing, which then means Ali Price is all of a sudden straight into the squad on the bench. Like, that to me is too many moving parts. I think Gregor needs to make a decision probably this Monday, probably tomorrow, and that's it done.
The players will know. The players will be told tomorrow, I think. The players will know the team on Tuesday.
You would hope so. And I think whatever that looks like, they just need to deal with it.
Because it sounds like Thursday's going to be their day off. If they're travelling on Thursday will be their day off, which means they're still training tomorrow and Wednesday, whereas if they were here, Wednesday would be their day off.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got a couple of days training to get through. And I think that's why I would urge caution with people thinking, oh, great, Finn and Darcy are definitely going to play, because we asked Pete earlier, what are the percentage chances? And he wouldn't commit to percentages, because I think it is way, way too early to say.
We so couldn't like that. There's this Six Nations, right? Scotland, as ever, it's the hope that kills us. We say it all the time. So now we go to play England when they are absolutely cock a hoop, and the game's at Castle Grayskull. So that's tough. And then you go, oh, Wales could be on a new manager bounce. And then you've got France last game.
You've painted a very bleak picture there.
This is what it. They got it right on Train Spotting. Being Scottish is a certain type of it's really, really frustrating. And Jockey Sherritt, love Jockey, my buddy, is going to be head coach of Wales. I taught him everything he knows, and I hope it goes well for him, but not against us.
Yes, there is that's almost as positive as your.
Yeah. But it's like England are now. If Darcy and Finn are fit, like, let's throw all tactics out the window. Catch this, Darcy. Right, Finn. Ollie Lawrence is coming back on a really short line. Tackle that, Finn, and he's your mate. He will. Oh, just.
The thing I would say,
I'm worried about England. I'm worried about Twickenham, because I said this. We can rewind right back to the pre-Six Nations pod, and I said this is a cup final, and now it feels like it's Squid Games.
It's a proper, what would I describe, a hinge game for this Six Nations, because win and you are 2 from 3, with Wales next, who are all over the place. And let's face it, like, Matt Sharrett's your mate, great, delighted for him, great opportunity. He's not going to fix things in a week. Like, they're playing Ireland.
Hey, whoa there, Leslie, right? Franco won the URC in about 10 minutes.
Aye,
they got pumped by 80 points, and then Franco turns them into a URC team.
That took 2 seasons. I'm not convinced that Wales are destined for anywhere other than the wooden spoon. However, I may be wrong, but I just think
I'm going to bring that up, I think, at some future point. I really hope I don't. I really hope it's me but that's a worry.
I also hope, and I think this might come back to bite me when we sit here in a week's time. But I just look at England and think, really? Like, are Scotland not better than that? Are Scotland not able to deal with a team's physicality at that level? I mean, not at all. It's not. France had a bad day. Like, France had a great team win. When it clicks, they're brilliant.
Do you know when they're going to do that?
I have a funny feeling it might be Super Saturday when they play Scotland.
And I will take. I'm not even sure.
And I've said to you before, like, if you're not going to be in Paris to see Scotland win it, to be in Paris and see the French win it is the next best thing. That means other results have to go certain ways.
We couldn't be any more Scottish. Like, it's grim. It's rubbish.
But I honestly don't, like, I'm not blown away by this thing that a number of people I've spoken to who varying degrees of interest in rugby who have said Scotland have got no chance this weekend. And I think,
I'm not saying they've got no chance. Not in the slightest.
No, you just don't fancy it, and I get that. But I just,
like, I'm actually at the point where I'm thinking about saying to Ryan Wilson, I'm with Ryan Wilson on Friday night. I think I'm going to say to him, Wilson, get yourself over the barrier and get yourself into the tunnel and go and pick a fight with Marcus Smith and see if that rattles them.
I just don't think it. Like, I'm not sure. I think Scotland have got more of a chance than clearly you do. We'll wait and see in the week's time who's right.
Yeah, but I always travel in hope, and by the time I'm there, I'll feel like, yeah, if I were to Scotland, there'll be 25,000 folk in there.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting point. Mad about golf, second row. We've got to make a change. Gregor's got to make a change. And
what's the change? What's the change? Cummings for Gray.
Oh, Cummings is still out.
Oh, sorry, Brown for Gray. Sorry,
I think so. To be perfectly honest, I think Johnny doesn't look match fit. I watched a bit of Bordeaux last night, and he was charging about in the open for them in a way that I've never seen Johnny Gray do for Scotland. But I think Scotland need to be more dynamic. Gilco has been a Gregor kind of go-to man over the years. I think he'll stick with him. But my worry is then Johnny Gray isn't necessarily a guy you want to bring off the bench with 20 minutes to go. So what do you do there? I don't think he's shown great faith in the other second rows, Henderson, Ewan Johnson, Marshall Sykes, by bringing Sam Skinner in and then putting him straight on the bench. So maybe Skinner goes on the bench again, but that would be reward for a collectively poor performance for Edinburgh. Look, I think who knows what it looks like, but I think that second row needs looked at. And I would look at, because they'll likely go with at least one Curry and Ben Earl in the back row, I would look at getting Jamie Ritchie back in the team. Great on the floor, and I think Scotland against Ireland lacked somebody to help Darge at the breakdown. I think that's a real worry for me, that we put all that load onto one person and say, basically, right, you're a one-man breakdown destroyer. It just, like, you can't, the days of Pocock and Hooper and McCaw and stuff, like, it just doesn't work anymore. We need more of a threat there. Here's another one. Could Twickenham be a blowout if Scotland don't show up? Could they get destroyed by 40?
James, you're making me look like a ray of sunshine.
I don't think this England team have got the ability to put a team away like that. I might be wrong. I often am.
I don't think you're wrong there. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like that. Someone would dearly have to go wrong for that to be the case. It would have to be down to 13 players. Finn gets injured, uncontested scrums. Aitchison, bring your boots. You're in. Would have to be the issue. I
think this one's a one that's topical. Loads of people obviously talking about Gregor's future off the back of the Franco stuff. It could be. I think that will be determined by what Scottish rugby see as a success.
Financially, though, and again, I don't know this stuff. Gregor's got a year to go, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. So April 26th.
He's no on sweeties.
No, totally.
And Franco would have to take an up to go from Glasgow to Scotland. And then if you take Franco, does he get Gregor's team, which means you need to find them somewhere else to be? Do they go to Glasgow? Like, I think it gets really messy. I don't think anything's, unless it's a January transfer window pre-contract agreement, right, Franco? The job's yours in April 26, and we're never going to be told that for a very long time.
Again, though, this could all be complicated, and this is where the Wales thing becomes more of an interest. This could all be complicated by the fact that another of the leading candidates, according to, if you believe the bookies, is Steve Tandy. So if Tandy, who's Gregor's most senior assistant, goes, you've got Pete Horn, who would be an ideal candidate to replace Franco, and John DL, who could do a similar job. And Franco could move. I'm obviously speaking hypothetically, but Franco could keep that Glasgow coaching staff together if he wanted to and move them into the national team job. I'm not saying that's the perfect solution, but it's a solution clearly that loads of fans have thought about. And I think it's one that, look, when we spoke to John McGuigan after last year's Six Nations, he was pretty clear that in his mind, 2 wins in a Six Nations wasn't good enough. That means Scotland have either got to win on Saturday or win in Paris and beat Wales. I know
your sums are getting miles better.
Yeah, that was
really well done. Have you got that written down in front of you? Just you thought, I'm going to use that.
I've got it in a calculator somewhere.
Yeah.
A comment here that I'm not sure we'll get into much beyond the sort of hope banter that it's meant to be. But Gatland's the man.
There's been I've seen people saying that. I have seen that, and I think Warren's probably had enough on his way back to Hamilton. Not Hamilton Bulls, but Hamilton Waikato.
He better not be quite on his way there yet.
He's got a big gig in Haddington coming up. I can't believe I've not been booked to answer the questions there.
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to have to put some sort of disguise on and try and find a seat in the back row, and get in and see what he says, and hope that he.
I'd love to see what disguise you're wearing.
I mean, yeah, it would have to be some pretty interesting disguise. Last one before we wrap up. Where do you see the game being won and lost? Scottish forwards, I think, bullied and out-muscled against the Irish is probably fair. Do you agree?
Yeah, but we could say that about every win, every loss. The forward, you lot claim that you win the game, and we decide by how many. That Irish forward pack have done that to many teams, and when you can bring on Jack Conan and Cian Healy and boys like Sheehan, and like that's not just a pack. That's a pack plus your bomb squad. That's incredible depth. It's absolutely going to be one up front, and that English team will be looking to go straight up and down. Like that forward pack will be carrying. The Currys will be hungry for, Ben Errol will be getting excited every time he gets a turnover.
Or Scotland drop the ball, or anything sort of remotely interesting happens, or the referee does the coin toss, or there's a gust of wind, or any of the above.
But it's just, it totally is, because it's the battle of the Finns, possibly.
Good Finn against the other guy.
If Finn Smith gets the ball, he'll be the better 10 on the day. If Finn Russell gets more ball, he'll be the better 10 on the day.
Yeah,
simple.
You're right.
And Ben White, I thought showed a lot. I said that the other day. I thought he showed a lot. It almost felt like Dobie's come on, right? This is me for 80 minutes. I'm going for it. He's definitely Gregor's first choice, number 9.
Yeah.
He'll know a lot of these players. He'll be ready to have a crack at it. Hugh Jones was quiet. He'll know a lot of these boys. He'll want to have a crack.
Just on Hugh, I think, he was quiet against Ireland, but I think I rate Ollie Lawrence so highly when he plays with Bath and he plays with Finn and he plays with Cam Redpath. He looks a top player. I think sometimes when England are maybe not very sure of their midfield, that can all look a bit clunky, and him and Slade both look like 13s playing, and one's playing 12, and I think that is, despite all the potential for change, a real opportunity for Scotland. If you can get Hugh Jones and Blair Kinghorn ball, there might be opportunities on that outside channel, outside Ollie Lawrence.
How hot is Henry Slade? He is smoking hot. He is Abercrombie and Fitch. Like, that is wow.
I'm going to take your word for that. Personally, hadn't really noticed that before.
He is exceptional. Blair Kinghorn, that's the first time his name has been mentioned. I really would love to see him tear it up at Twickenham. I would love to see him get player of the match, claim everything in the air, because they will go aerial, claim everything in the air, broken field, get to Blair, kick well. I really hope he has a cracker. I think it would be a big statement for him looking at a holiday down south for the Lions in the summer.
Yeah, I do too. And I think Gordon's point there, for forwards managed parity, I think Scotland could be in with a good shout. I think, look, on another day, that if that game's played another 9 times, France win all 9.
It depends. Okay, and they dropped the ball, and I get it, but it depends what parity. Like, we could get parity and not get any ball. They kick better and win the game.
Yes.
We could get parity, and when we get chances, we take them and we win the game. England's kicking game will be interesting against us.
I think England's selection will be interesting. Do they keep Marcus Smith at 15?
Against us, I think they do.
Yeah, against us, I think because of the threat, Scotland are not going to go massively to the air.
You're not dropping Finn Smith, player of the match last game. You're not dropping Finn Smith.
Like that, for it to have taken Borthwick so long to work out that he's the guy that needs to play 10 is baffling to me. Like,
yeah, but Smith's promised so much. The kid has got so much, but it doesn't feel like he's quite delivered. I think it was always on the what if he hits it, and he's had moments of a drop goal or a try or a break. Like, he's had moments, but he's not really stuck together too many whole performances for England.
You also need to give him the team that is going to suit to his style. I think the team that Borthwick wants to pick suits Finn Smith's style 100 times better. And it seemed odd from the outside as somebody with very little knowledge of what England do that he hadn't even thought of that in the autumn. And then all of a sudden, one game into the Six Nations, he's made a change. And look, it's worked for them. But as I said, on another day, France win that, and they win it pretty comfortably. So,
well, let's hope this Saturday's the other day. All right, fella, my tea's getting cold. Great to see you.
You too, as always.
Let's keep it positive, and let's make sure everybody signs up to Scotland Rugby News. Please subscribe. You'll be able to get all the good content and hear all about the stuff with Pete Horn telling us stories and Franco. It's £1 for 6 months, so get it now. I've not got Gav's calculator, but let's just say it's value for money. It's not cheap, it's value for money. I was Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg Shape. He was Gavin Harper from Scotland Rugby News. See you all again soon. Maybe see you in London, baby.